Okay, so for millions of property owners, there's that one piece of mail every year. You know the one. The property tax bill, or maybe the trim notice.
Oh, yeah. The Truth and Millage Notice.
Right. And what's the first thing you do? You flip right to the bottom, scan for that total amount due. It's almost instinct.
It absolutely is. It can be a bit of an anxiety-inducing moment, can't it?
Yeah.
And once you get past that sticker shock, maybe you look at the actual line items.
And that's where your eyes just glaze over.
Exactly. You see these weird labels.
Mm-hmm.
Some say ad valorem, others non-ad valorem. And honestly, most people just kind of throw their hands up.
Yeah, they figure, okay, it's Latin, I don't need this. Write the check and move on.
Understandably so. But today, we're actually going to do the opposite.
We are. Our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack those two terms, ad valorem and non-ad valorem. We want you, the property owner, to feel empowered, to actually understand what you're paying for.
And who's charging you, and critically, how you might question those charges if something seems off.
Mm-hmm.
And really, to start, we have to get this one big idea straight, something most homeowners don't always realize. That bill. It's not just one tax.
Okay.
No, it's actually a mix. It combines two fundamentally different kinds of charges onto one piece of paper.
Yeah.
And understanding that difference, it's key to everything else.
All right, so let's bring that down first, even before the fancy Latin. What are these two different pots of money, essentially, that are lumped together?
Okay, so the first category, that's taxes. Think of this as your general contribution, your dues maybe, to the community's overall funding pot.
Like a membership fee for living in the county or city?
That's a great way to put it, yeah. It funds the general stuff, the services that benefit everyone broadly, schools, police, parks.
Got it. General fund. Okay, what's the second category then?
The second category is assessments, or you can often just call them fees. Now, this is completely different. It's more like an a la carte charge. You pay a specific amount because your property gets a direct, measurable service or benefit. It's not about the general good. It's about something specific you receive, like a utility charge.
Okay, that makes sense. General contribution versus a specific service charge. So ad valorem and non-ad valorem. Those are just the official labels for these two buckets.
Exactly. They're the legal terms used on the notices and the bills to separate the membership fee from the a la carte charges.
All right, let's tackle the big one first then, the one that feels like the classic property tax. Ad valorem. Sounds imposing, but what does ad valorem actually mean?
It's Latin, and it translates pretty simply to according to value.
According to value, okay.
And that phrase tells you basically everything about how this tax works. It's calculated based entirely, 100%, on the value of your property.
Right, so the underlying idea is if your property is worth more, you chip in a bit more for running the government.
Precisely. It's seen as a way to distribute the cost of those general government operations proportionally.
And what kind of general operations are we talking about? What does this part of the bill typically fund?
This is where you see funding for the big collective services. Public schools, K through 12, police departments, sheriff's offices, maintaining public libraries, local parks, and just the general running costs of the county and city governments.
Makes sense. Someone with a huge office building probably benefits more overall, or at least has more value protected by, say, the fire department, than someone with a small vacant lot. So their according to value contribution is higher.
That's the principle behind it, yeah.
Okay, but here's where I think people get bogged down. The calculation itself, it always looks like some kind of complex math problem on the bill. If the idea is simple according to value, why does the math look so confusing?
Yeah, it looks confusing because it's actually a two-step process, and it involves different government players, which isn't always obvious.
Okay, step one.
Step one is figuring out the taxable value. So every year, the county property appraiser has the job of determining your property's just value. Think of that as its fair market value.
Right.
Then they subtract any exemptions you qualify for. The big one for homeowners is usually the homestead exemption.
Mm-hmm. That saves you quite a bit.
It does. And what's left after exemptions, that lower number is your taxable value. That's the crucial figure that tax is actually based on, not necessarily the full market value.
Okay, so appraiser sets the value, applies exemptions, gets the taxable value. What's step two?
Step two is applying the millage rate. That's just the official term for the tax rate itself.
Millage rate. Okay.
And here's where it gets layered.
Mm-hmm.
That rate, it's not set by just one government body.
Ah, okay. So that number listed as the total millage rate isn't from just, like, the county.
Nope. It's actually a combined rate. It's the sum of individual rates set by, say, the county commission, the school board, maybe your city council if you live within city limits, and sometimes special districts like a water management district. They all set their own rate based on their budget needs.
Wow. Okay, so multiple entities pile their rates together.
Exactly. And the term mill itself can be a bit confusing. One mill is simply 1/1000th of a dollar, or, put another way, it's $1 in tax for every $1,000 of taxable value.
$1 per thousand.
That's just a standard unit they use for property taxes. Been around a long time.
All right, let's make this concrete. Let's say I'm a homeowner, I look up my trim notice, and my taxable value after my homestead exemption is $300,000.
Okay, $300,000 taxable value.
And let's say all those different groups, schools, county, city, whatever their rates, add up to a total millage rate of 18 mils. How do I get to my ad valorem tax bill?
Okay, good example. You take that taxable value, the $300,000, you divide it by $1,000 because a mill is per $1,000 of value.
Right, so $300,000 divided by $1,000 is 300.
Correct. Then you multiply that number, 300, by the total millage rate, which you said was 18 mils.
So 300 times 18, carry the one, that's $5,400.
Exactly. $5,400. That's your total ad valorem tax for the year. And that money then gets divvied up and sent back out to the school board, the county, the city, based on the rates they each set.
That actually makes perfect sense when you break it down like that. And it really shows why getting those exemptions, like homestead, is so critical. It directly lowers that starting taxable value number.
Absolutely. Every dollar reduction in taxable value saves you money based on that millage rate.
Okay, crystal clear on ad valorem. Now, let's shift gears to the other side of the bill, the part that often causes maybe even more confusion because it doesn't seem tied to value, non-ad valorem assessments.
Right. And like we said, non-ad valorem literally means not according to value. That's the absolute key here, the value of your home. Totally irrelevant for this charge. Doesn't matter if it's a tiny cottage or a huge mansion.
And this is where that utility bill or, say, trash collection analogy really clicks for me.
Yeah.
My house might be worth twice as much as my neighbor's, but if we both roll one standard bin to the curb each week for pickup,
You're both getting the exact same service.
right, so we should pay the same fee for that specific service.
Precisely. These are not taxes in the traditional sense. They are fees or assessments specifically for a service or maybe an infrastructure project that provides a direct, what the law calls a special benefit, right to your property.
Okay, so if value isn't the yardstick, how do they figure out how much each property should pay? How do they calculate that fee?
Since they can't use value, the government agency has to come up with a different unit of measure, something related to the service itself, to fairly divide up the cost.
What are some common ways they do that? What kind of units of measure do you see?
Well, probably the most common is just a flat fee per parcel or per house. That's super common for things like solid waste collection, maybe a basic stormwater fee, or recycling programs.
Okay, one house, one fee. Simple enough.
Right. Another way is based on the physical characteristics of the property that relate to the service. For example, a fee per front foot, meaning how much of your property borders the street.
Front foot. When would they use that?
That often comes up for things like installing new sewer lines or sidewalks or maybe street paving. The logic is the more frontage you have, the more pipe or sidewalk needs to be laid along your property line, so you pay proportionally more of that specific project's cost.
Ah, okay. Makes sense. Any other common methods?
Yeah, you also sometimes see fees based on the type of residential unit. A good example is often a fire rescue assessment. It might be a flat fee per dwelling unit, house, condo unit, apartment, regardless of its size or value. The idea is the cost of having fire protection available is spread across all the units it serves.
Gotcha. And speaking of things that often surprise people, especially buyers in newer neighborhoods, let's talk about community development districts, CDDs. Those seem to pop up as non-ad valorem assessments too.
Oh, absolutely. And they are a huge source of questions because, frankly, CDDs are kind of complicated. They're special taxing districts, usually set up by the developer.
To do what exactly?
Essentially, to finance and manage the major infrastructure needed for a large new community. Think about the internal roads, the fancy entrance gates, the water and sewer lines within the development, the stormwater ponds, maybe even some amenity centers. That stuff costs a ton of money up front.
Right. Developers don't usually pay that out of pocket.
Not typically for the really big stuff. So the CDD issues long-term bonds, basically, takes out a big loan to pay for building all that infrastructure.
Okay, so the CDD borrows money. Where does the homeowner come in?
The non-ad valorem assessment you see on your tax bill related to the CDD. That's your annual payment towards paying back that bond debt. Plus, usually an ongoing amount for maintaining all that infrastructure, the roads, the gates, the ponds.
So it's basically my share of the mortgage payment for the neighborhood's infrastructure.
That's a really good analogy, yes. It's not a general tax funding the county. It's a fee paying directly for the infrastructure and amenities within your specific community. It's paying for that direct special benefits you get by living there. So it's crucial, especially if you're buying new construction, to understand if there's a CDD fee and how much it is.
Definitely sounds like something to ask about up front. Okay, this distinction is super clear now. Ad valorem is value-based, funds general stuff. Non-ad valorem is fee-based, funds specific benefits to my property, value doesn't matter. So, why is drilling down on this difference so important for the average homeowner? Why does it matter when I look at my bill and think, this seems high?
It matters immensely because the type of charge tax versus fee dictates the entire process for how you can challenge it if you disagree.
Okay.
You absolutely cannot use the wrong argument for the wrong type of charge. If you try to challenge a tax using the logic for challenging a fee, or vice versa, you'll get nowhere fast. The legal base is completely different.
All right, let's walk through that. Let's go back to our ad valorem tax example, the $5,400 calculated based on my $300,000 taxable value and 18 mils. If I think that $5,400 is just wrong, what are my options?
For the ad valorem tax, you essentially have two potential paths, two very different arguments you can make.
Okay, path one.
Path one is challenging the value. You disagree with the property appraiser's assessment of your property's market value, or maybe how they calculated your taxable value. You think it's just too high compared to similar properties or market conditions.
So I'm arguing with the appraiser's number. How do I do that?
That requires filing a formal appeal. It goes to what's called the Value Adjustment Board, or VB. It's kind of like a mini-court proceeding. You present evidence comps, appraisals to argue your value is lower, and there's usually a very strict deadline to file that appeal, typically in September.
Okay, so challenge the value via the VAB, bring evidence. Got it. What's the second path if I think my ad valorem tax is too high?
Path two is challenging the rate, the millage rate itself. You're not arguing about your property's value anymore. You're arguing that the tax rate set by the county commission or the school board or whoever is simply too high.
So this isn't an argument with the property appraiser at
No.
all?
This is a political argument, essentially.
Okay.
It's about the budget. Remember that trim, notice, truth, and millish?
Mm-hmm.
Part of its purpose is to tell you what rate the government bodies are proposing and when they're holding public hearings on their budgets before they finalize those rates.
Ah. So if I think the school board's rate is excessive, I can't just complain to the VIB. I need to show up at the school board's budget hearing.
Exactly. You need to go to their public trim hearing, usually held in the evening before they vote, and make your case that their proposed budget and the resulting tax rate are too high. You're trying to influence a political decision that affects everyone in their jurisdiction.
Okay, that's a critical distinction. Complaining about the rate to the VAB is pointless, and complaining about your specific property value at a budget hearing is also pointless. Wrong forum, wrong argument.
You got it. You're just in the wrong room, basically.
Okay, now flip it. What about challenging the non-ad valorem assessments? If I think my, say, solid waste fee or my CDD fee is wrong, arguing that my house isn't worth that much is
Totally useless. A non-starter. Remember, value is irrelevant for these fees.
right. So what kind of arguments can I make to challenge a non-ad valorem fee?
Here, you have to attack the fee itself or how it was applied to your property. You need to show it's improper based on the established unit of measure or the underlying rules for that specific fee.
Okay, what are the main ways you could prove a fee is improper?
Generally, there are about three main angles. First, you can show a factual error. For instance, you're being charged the solid waste fee, but maybe you live way out in a rural area where the county doesn't actually provide trash pickup and you have to use a private service. The fee shouldn't apply to your parcel.
Okay, church for service I don't even get. That makes sense. What else?
Second, a calculation error. Maybe the fee is based on the type of unit like we discussed for fire rescue. Let's say you own a single-family home, but somehow the county's records mistakenly have you listed as a duplex and they charge you double the rate. That's a clear calculation error based on their own rules.
Right, they applied the wrong rate or wrong unit count to my specific property.
Exactly. And the third way, which can be more complex legally, is to argue the assessment itself is invalid. This usually means arguing that the fee doesn't actually provide the required special benefit directly to your property as mandated by law for these types of assessments. That's a deeper legal challenge.
Wow. So, completely different set of arguments needed for the fee side of the bill. It's
Right.
all about the specific service, the calculation method, or the legal basis for the fee itself.
Precisely. Knowing which side of the bill you're questioning, ad valorem tax or a non-ad valorem fee, is the first, most crucial step to making a successful challenge.
That's incredibly helpful. Okay, stepping back for a second. We've talked about these two different types of charges, set by different entities, calculated differently, challenged differently. Why on earth do they all get jammed together onto one single bill from the tax collector? Why not separate bills?
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive after all this, right? But the answer is really just about practicality and efficiency, pure logistics.
How so?
Think about it. The tax collector acts as the central billing department for everybody in the county who levies a tax or assessment. The county commission, the city council, the school board, maybe multiple CDDs, the water district, the mosquito control district.
Okay, yeah, that could be a lot of separate
It
bills.
could be dozens. Imagine getting 10 or 15 different tax bills throughout the year.
Mm.
It would be a nightmare for homeowners to track and pay, and a nightmare for all those agencies to manage collections separately. So the law requires the tax collector to consolidate everything onto one unified bill. It dramatically simplifies the payment process for you, the property owner, and it ensures all those different government bodies get their funding efficiently and on time. It's basically a centralized collection service.
Okay, so the single bill, despite the initial confusion it causes, is actually designed for efficiency. That makes sense. So when we open that envelope next year,
Hmm.
we should try to see it not just as one scary number, but as really two different stories being told.
That's a great way to look at it.
Mm.
The ad valorem part is your according to value contribution. It's your share funding those essential collective services.
Mm.
The police, the schools, the parks that make the whole community work.
Your membership fee.
Your membership fee, exactly. And then the non-ad valorem part, that's your not according to value payment. Those are the specific fees for the direct benefits landing right on your doorstep. The garbage pickup, the fire station down the street being ready, maybe the streetlights on your block, or the roads inside your specific CDD.
So it stops being just this confusing, maybe frustrating bill and starts looking more like a detailed receipt for services rendered, both general and specific.
Precisely. And having that understanding, that clarity,
Yeah.
that's really the key. It moves you from just signing and writing a check to being a truly informed property owner, capable of asking the right questions.
Absolutely. That knowledge is power. Now, this can still feel complex, especially when you're in the middle of buying or selling property, or if you think there might be a real issue with your bill. Getting personalized guidance is often really important.
It really is. For folks who need that kind of trusted legal support, maybe navigating a closing, needing title services, or dealing with more complex issues involving real estate law, litigation, even business law, or estate planning. Getting expert counsel is definitely the way to go.
And for listeners looking for that kind of assistance, the friend that provided the insights for today's deep dive, Barnes Walker, offers exactly that kind of guidance.
That's right. They handle title services and closings and also provide comprehensive legal counsel across those key areas: real estate, litigation, business law, estate planning.
So if you need that expert help, you can find out more about their services or start an inquiry by visiting their website. It's www.barneswalker.com.
That's BARNESWALKER.com. Definitely worth checking out if you need assistance navigating these kinds of property